We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
Boom! Headshot!
Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I want to talk about one tip that I have that I've been having some success with for solo queue. If you want to be improving your play in ranked, if you want to be winning more games, this is the tip that I have found to be most helpful. I am by no means an expert on League of Legends or solo queue. I am not the greatest player in the world. This is one tip that has really helped me in the last month or two to help climb up the ladder. And it's one simple tip, and the simple tip is to master one champion. Not saying that you should not be versatile or that you should not know all the roles. Certainly, I would say it is a requirement if you're going to play ranked play that you are at least moderately proficient at each of the roles. That you can play all of the roles at least to a moderate proficiency. I would say that is a requirement. You know, for those who every once in a while you see it in chat where someone says, "I can't play support" or "I can't jungle." Just like, well, then I honestly think that provides a pretty big liability to your team. You should at least be able to play all of the roles. You should at least be capable of of fulfilling each of the roles on your team, because you need to be a team player. That's definitely one thing that can help a lot. But within that, there is usually one of the things that I enjoy about ranked is that people are usually able and willing to kind of work with you. If you say, hey, this is what I'm really good at, this is what I want to play, this is how I can best help the team, usually people are pretty receptive to that, because people want teammates who are good. People want teammates who are successful at one thing. So for me, I have really fallen in love with Ezreal. His playstyle, especially the blue build, is just something that I really enjoy playing. I have a ton of fun with it, and I've been able to have a lot of success with it. This is a gameplay I actually just finished, like literally 5 seconds ago, and it was a fun game, and I thought I would share it with you guys. But the thing that I think was most telling about this game was that I didn't actually have such a great start. There definitely were a lot of mistakes I could have made, but there were a lot of times where I ended up doing something successfully. Like there are a couple times when I end up throwing my ultimate down into a team fight at just the exact moment when I know that I can secure the kill. The point here though is that there are little things about Ezreal, little feel things about Ezreal that I have become so familiar with because I've played like, I don't know, 40 or 50 some solo queue games with him in the last couple of months. But you become so familiar and so intimately connected with that champion and the way their playstyle, their cooldowns, how much damage they can do, their matchups, all of those things just kind of meld together into this one little pot where you become so well acquainted with one champion that you are capable of really playing at a higher level. One of the things that I fall prey into is that when I watch streamers, I'll watch guys like Boy, and they'll do things like they'll play Vayne top, or they'll bust out all these crazy builds and unorthodox playstyles, and they'll do all these wild things, and they go from one champion to the next. When they're in champion select, I mean, they literally could pick any of the 100 champions and take them to whatever their best lane is and do moderately well. I mean, they literally, like, they'll do an A to Z marathon, and they will, they'll do something like play Ahri top lane, or, all sorts of these crazy unorthodox champions. They'll do well. And I'll think, you know what, that's really cool. I want to try that. I want to try Vayne top. I want to try, whatever the unorthodox build or playstyle is. But when I do that, it never works out that way. It never goes as well as I would hope it would go. I am never able to just kind of pull that type of playstyle out of, a thin air like they are. I'm never able to do that quite as successfully as they are. And the main reason why is because I do not have a comfort level with all those different champions like those guys do. I mean, someone like Voy, he's been playing this game for 3 years. I guarantee he's played each champion that has come out, multiple times. He has definite familiarity with all the champions. And that's just something I don't have. And if you're a newer player and if you're struggling, you're not going to be able to build that up. That's something that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of games. But you can do that with one champion over the course of about a month. You can develop that sort of an intimacy and that sort of understanding, a deep level of understanding with one champion relatively quickly. And I would say that that is the best thing that I have done in order to prove my solo queue experience in order to win games. So for example, like this lane, Draven Nami. I've played against a Draven Nami before. That's a relatively uncommon lane, but I've done it before, so I have some idea of what to expect. I've played with Sona dozens of times, so I know exactly what she can do for me. You know, just little things like knowing exactly, you know, how well I can poke down Draven, how well you know, when do I need to E away? When do I need to E in? All those little things. You can see right there getting so incredibly low. Missed my last Q in order to miss that kill. But the main point here, and one of the main reasons why I have success in this game, is because it displays my well understanding of Ezreal, that I know a lot of things about his gameplay. You know, little things like build itemization paths. I think that this is one of the most interesting parts of League of Legends. I really enjoy the way that itemization works and how you can itemize, you know, defensively or offensively, or to counter certain things that the other champions do or are building. I think that's one of the most interesting and develop and intricate details in League of Legends. But the main thing there is that it's hard to really itemize successfully when you can see right here getting a nice little trade with Draven as we both end up dying there. First couple of kills and deaths right there. But with itemization with Ezreal, with the blue build, I've ran the blue build probably 40 or 50 times now. So I have a really good in-depth understanding of exactly when I want to get my tier, and exactly when I want to finish the Iceborne Gauntlets, and when I want to finish the mana, you know, transform the tier into the mana immune so that it will transform into the mirror mana. When to get the Iceborne Gauntlets. I know when to get all of those things to work together because I've played it so many times and I've tried it in so many different ways that I know that you want to buy the Iceborne Gauntlets right at about the time that your mirror mana transforms into the mana immune, because giving that Iceborne Gauntlets, and then when it transforms, you get a huge power spike. That's much more so than if you delay it a little bit. That you really want to get those two items to synergize well together, because then you get this massive mid-game power spike. Or little things like, when do I go for a Blade of the Ruined King in place of a Last Whisper, or when do I go for a Bloodthirster at all? If you know, even if I rush it first item or sixth item or anywhere in between, how do I fit that item into this build? All of those little details are things that I have toyed with and experimented with and come to have an understanding of. And the point of this video isn't to say, hey, look how awesome I am at playing Ezreal. The point of this video is to say, look at how successful you can be when you have a really deep understanding of how a champion works. I totally wish they're on my ultimate. You know, you're capable of really taking your play to a whole new level when you can really master a certain champion. And there are so many different things. And another thing too is lane matchups. That is just an absolutely gigantic part of this game. You know, think about a champion like Nasus. Nasus can do extremely well in certain lane matchups, but then he can do extremely poorly in other matchups. Teemo is another one that comes to mind. You know, if you take Teemo against someone like Singed or Garen, you know, Teemo is going to do great. But then there are other times when I've played Akali against a Teemo, and I literally have not had a game when I'm playing Akali against a Teemo when I don't go like a boatload of kills. Every time I play against Teemo, I immediately try to pick Akali because I'm really confident that I can absolutely destroy that lane matchup. Those are all the things that really go into this, you know, knowing the lane matchups, knowing exactly how much damage a certain champion can put out, knowing exactly how much you know, damage they can't put out, how well they synergize with other certain champions, how well they work with certain items. All of those things, it's extremely complex. There are over 100 and some different champions in League of Legends, and to know exactly how they all work together is very, very complex. But then it's one thing to know that, but then it's a whole other thing to have to know it for each of the different champions. I mean, the multiplication there is just absurd. You know, if you do one champion versus, let's say there are 20 or 30 AD carries, 1 compared to 20, that's doable. That's something that you can gain experience and understanding with relatively easily. But to do all 20 AD carries intermixed with all other 20 AD carries, that becomes an absolutely monumental task. You know, that is something that takes years of experience in playing to understand. Just very, you know, it's extremely complex sets of information. So to really buckle down and master one champion, I personally think that it gives you a ton of advantages. You know, I've talked about a lot of these before, about how you know, you learn all the different lane matchups so that you have an understanding of what it's like and when to be aggressive, when to be passive. You become intimately connected with their ability details, little things like cooldowns, like Ezreal's Q. I know exactly the cooldown and even the difference of the cooldown from when I hit it successfully versus when I miss it. The cooldown is actually different, and I know that it's like a feel thing. It's like something that I've practiced so often that I just know it without even having to look down at the cooldown meter. Little things like exactly how much damage my ultimate will do. Right there, this was a really good example. Let's watch this fight one more time. Right here, we've been having this little duel. I'm just going to slow it down. And you can see I land my Q onto Nami right... Actually, there was an auto attack. Get one more auto attack. There's a Q. You can see I get her extremely low, and I know that if I ult on her, I will definitely get the kill. And boom, right there, able to pick it up. Now, turning my sights onto Draven. I know exactly when my E will come off cooldown, and then going to hit him with a Q to pick up that kill. It's little things like that, like knowing exactly how, you know, when you can feel how much damage you need to finalize a kill, you know, because a lot of times in League of Legends, things come down to only, you know, think about how many times somebody has been left with under 100 health. You know, that's one auto attack. Well, when you play a champion so frequently, you learn how to squeeze in even one more auto attack with your trade. That could be the difference between life and death. You know, when to use your active items. That's one thing, too, that I see a lot of people struggle with. Is like, hey, I never remember to use my active items. Well, I struggle a lot with that, too. But one of the best ways to do that is to build active items every single game so that you become extremely familiar with them. That it's almost like, you know, I know every game at about the 30-minute mark or whatever, I'm going to get my Man Immune transform. Then I'm going to have that toggle. You know, and then that toggle becomes an instinctual part of my late-game Ezreal playstyle. You know, because I've built it every single game that I play this blue Ezreal build. I know exactly when I will be able to transform it and when I'll get access to that toggle. You know, it's very important. It's very important, and it's extremely helpful to know all of those things. So, you know, there are a lot of different ways and a lot of different things that people say about playing solo queue. But the biggest thing that I can recommend is to really master one champion. And I think this is especially effective if you're in bronze. And you can see right here, this was a really good... Let's watch this clip one more time. This was another example of you know, having a feel for my ultimate. You know, knowing the range of my Qs and having a feel for my ultimate. I could see that all these guys are weak, and I was waiting for that damage right there from the crescendo from Sona, and then I was going to throw my ultimate right on top of it, and I was able to pick up a nice triple kill right there as we really cleaned up that fight nicely. But that's what I'm talking about. Those are the things I'm talking about. The little details, the little basic understandings when you really know a champion well. That can really help, and that can really, really help you win more games. And I think that this information is especially applicable to newer players. You know, a lot of you who are interested in my Why series are probably, you know, newer players who don't, you know, have a feel for all the champions yet. That's probably the biggest thing that the Why series does, is it just gives you information about champions. You know, their strengths, their weaknesses, their playstyles, that kind of thing. Well, if you're that type of a person, I think that this could be really helpful to you, and I'd really encourage you guys to try it, to try experimenting with, you know, just take one champion that you've said, hey, you know, this is my favorite champion, and I'm going to really try to play them as often as I can in a ranked match. And then I'm not saying that you need to play them every single game. I'm not saying that you instantly lock, let's say you choose Katarina. I'm not saying that you instantly lock Katarina. Right there is another good example of a perfectly timed ultimate, just when it would have killed Nocturne. But I'm not saying that every single game you come in and you lock Katarina and you say, you know what, I'm going to play Katarina, I'm going to feed. That's my two choices. Because that's just being a jerk. But I am saying that whenever you get the opportunity to get into a ranked match, you enter into the chat and you say, hey, you know what, I play a lot of mid lane. I'd really appreciate it if that works with you guys, if I could play that this game. I really think that that's how I can benefit my team the most. That's a really, really good way to... You're working with your team and you're saying, not so much, hey, I demand to play a certain champion and role, but hey, truly, this is my greatest strengths. I'm going to have the most success, and I'm going to be your best teammate if I can play this champion in this role. That's what I try to do, and it's just good to have that type of communication and awareness with your team. So yeah, you don't have to do it every game. Like I said before, you do want to have at least a moderate proficiency with all the roles and champions. But having one specific champion that you are really, really good with, that you can play frequently, that you can play a lot, that you can really master the ins and outs and the details, I personally think is of a great benefit to you guys, and I really think that it will help you. So yeah, just continuing to watch this game. This game has really started to snowball out of control. We've got a huge lead. And if you've seen in our team fights, you know, little things like when do I choose to E away versus when do I choose to E in? You know, that's a really important thing to know. How much damage can I output? You know, and with Ezreal, he's a very skill shot reliant champion. He's a very, you know, especially with the Iceborne Gauntlets, when it's so much about landing your Q, you really need to know little things like the projectile speed. Like if an opponent is running horizontally to you, how far do you lead the Q? How far ahead of them in their path do you lead it? Versus, you know, with your E, when do you decide, hey, I'm going to go in and be aggressive with my E? Versus when do you decide, hey, I'm going to play passively and try to get away? So right there, I passively jumped away just to, you know, tease Draven in so that we could pick off the kill. That's a really good example. And right there, using my E to get away from these guys so that I lose aggro so they start chasing after Sona. Well, now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to start throwing Qs at them to try to slow them. Even though it didn't save Sona, it still really delayed their push. Right here, this is a great example. Staying just close enough that Jace will chase me, landing a couple of Qs that he slowed to allow Kha'Zix to come in so that we can finish him off. Another really good example of just how much it can pay off. And right there, I used my E to go in because I knew that Kha'Zix and I could hopefully try to finish him off. I actually was waiting for Kha'Zix to get a Q and a W on, but I think he missed one of those. So I didn't quite have enough damage to finish off Nocturne there. But still, that was a really good trade right there. And at this point, I've got 183 CS, 9, 1, and 7. You know, I've finished my core build of those 4 items, and I'm really, really strong. This is exactly when my PowerPoint peaks. So I know that at this point in the game, I want to be aggressive. I want to be going for kills. I want to be, you know, really trying to secure and finalize this lead for my team and bring home the victory. And yeah, it's really something that has really helped me out. And if you think, one of the things that I find most annoying about solo queue is just how fluctuating it can be, how inconsistent it can be. You know, you'll go one game and you'll play fine, you'll play great, and it'll snowball and you get a huge lead, and there'll be a game like this where it's pretty much in the bag. Even at this 25-minute mark, you know, we pretty much have just such a big lead that it's going to need a pretty big throw for us to lose. But then you can't, like next game, maybe I'll play Ezreal, and again, and I'll do equally well. My mechanics will be fine, I'll be CSing great, but then all of a sudden, everything just went wrong, and my team did horrible, and we ended up losing equally bad on the opposite end. You know, that could equally well happen. And so just that, the way in which your solo queue games are just so inconsistent. They're so, there's just so much variance. It's so difficult to get a very consistent solo queue experience. Well, one of the ways to alleviate that is to eliminate your inconsistency, to eliminate your inability to understand the matchup. In, you know, if you ever go into a laning matchup that you've never played before, that puts you at a legitimate disadvantage because you honestly don't know what to expect, or how aggressively to play, or how, you know, what exact decisions you want to make at what exact times. You know, all those little things, you're going to be kind of guessing a little bit. Whereas your opponent, if they've done it before, they'll know, to the point where they don't have to guess, to the point where they don't have to try to, you know, make it up on the spot. They know all this. They've done it all before. It definitely puts them at a disadvantage. So give yourself that advantage. Don't put yourself in that disadvantage. And I'm not saying to never try unorthodox builds. I'm not saying that you never try, you know, fun or interesting type builds or you know, anything like that. But I am saying that if you really want to have a lot of success, the biggest tip that I would say is that it's extremely helpful to become, you know, a master of a specific champion. You know, because when you master a champion, it gives you an advantage, and that in League of Legends you want all the advantages you can get. So yeah, as we're wrapping this game up, there are probably other minor little tips that I could maybe give. Cooperating with teammates is huge. Being flexible enough to play all the different roles is huge. That goes in with cooperating with your teammates. little things like having a good attitude. League of Legends is a very cerebral game. It's very much dependent on your mentality, your ability to have confidence. Excuse me, yawning. Your ability to believe in yourself and your ability to think, hey, you know what, I got this, I can do this. That's an important thing. That's a very important thing to do. To have a positive mentality. That's huge. That can really make or break things. And so keep that in mind when you're playing solo queue. Is have a good attitude. Have fun with it. You know, be well slept. Be well fed. Use the restroom. All those little things can really help. Be in a good mindset to play the game. You know, but the biggest thing that I can recommend, more than anything else, is to really make sure that you have one champion that you master. That's your main, your home, your comfort, the one that you really feel good about. I really am a strong believer that can give you a pretty big advantage. You know, a comfort pick, a comfort champion. You know, and even if you think about the LCS, you know, some of these pro guys, they have certain specific picks and champions that they are extremely comfortable with. So it happens even at the highest level of play. You know, right there, this was a good example. Let's go ahead and slow this down and back this team fight up right here. After we picked up Baron, we've got all 5 of them in the team. I jump over because I know that I can, you know, do a little bit of damage and then jump right back over because I know the cooldowns. I know exactly, you know, they don't have a ton of burst damage. Gonna jump right back over again. So just playing this little ledge. I've jumped over back and forth that Baron ledge multiple times, but that's something that's taken practice, that you have to know exactly what part of the ledge you can jump over versus what part of the ledge you can't. That's an important thing to know. So again, like I was saying before, you want to really make sure that you can master a champion because, you know, giving yourself that familiarity gives yourself a huge advantage. And you want to take every advantage you can get. You want to almost instinctively play the game, not to where you're trying to... Oh my goodness, excuse me. Got the yawns. Not even tired. But you don't want to be at the point where you're trying to figure it out as you go, or you're trying to think, oh, I don't really know, I'm not really sure, because that's when you're, you know, you're giving up silly deaths and you're dying yourself in a very silly way. But what you want to do is be confident in your play. Be confident in knowing exactly what your limitations are, what you can do, what you can't do. All those things are crucial. So yeah, as we wind this game down, we're pretty much just, you know, just got to take our time, go back in. Actually decided to sell my Spirit of the Elder Lizard, pick up a Blade of the Rune King right there. So I got a boatload of AD, 403 attack damage. Is a lot for an AD carry, that's for darn sure. But yeah, pretty fun game right here. As we wind it down, how much damage is my Q doing? Wow, that's almost 550 damage per shot. That's a lot of damage. But yeah, as we wind things down, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Pretty fun gameplay, but I hope you guys are hearing my point out and hearing it as I mean to say it. That you know, if you're really looking to try and get yourself, you know, out of the quote-unquote elo hell, and you're trying, if you know you're a better player than your competition, well, one of the ways that you can really maximize that is to master a champion. To take a champion that you're good with and master it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'd love to hear in the comment section down below who your main champion is, and if you too have had success with mastering a champion. But yeah, I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.